MINDIA, Mind of India.
They've been around for 150 million years, much before humans evolved. And they have survived these millions of years on Earth. And I think we should respect them for being the first animals that figured out how to communicate using sounds. And we should respect that shared sense of history. And they deserve to be protected because we share the Earth with them. I've always been interested in animals and nature, and so I wanted to have a career that actually had something to do with being outdoors and being with animals and plants. So I applied for postdocs abroad in animal communication, or animal navigation is what I wanted to work in. And I happened to get a position in McGill University, Montreal, working on crickets and on acoustic communication in crickets. So that's how I got to ultimately get into this field. Much of what I started doing in the wild actually started after I came to Bangalore, after I came to IISc, and I was looking around for interesting things to work on. So my first couple of years I actually spent doing a lot of trips and treks, walking up and down the Western Ghats together with students. And when I was walking around in Kudremukh National Park, that's when I realized that this is where I want to work. This is where I want to do my fieldwork, because there was this amazing community of insects with the most incredible sounds and calls. But even IISc campus is very rich in biodiversity. So I would spend a lot of time, just being out here on this campus at night, listening to all these new sounds, tracking down the crickets. And in fact, that's how I discovered the tree cricket that I work on, Acanthus henry. And I still remember that night very vividly. I was taking some course students out, tracking crickets, showing them how to track crickets. And we heard this beautiful song coming, and I saw this little cricket in a baffle. So a baffle is an amplifier that these little insects make out of leaves. And I had no idea, I had read about this, I had no idea we had them here in India. And here they were right on campus. And that's how I started this journey working on tree crickets, and I've worked on them for 22 years now. This was a cricket discovered in Mexico by a North American group based in the US. And they decided to name it after me, although I don't even know them. Okay, for me, that is real recognition of my work, because it means that people have been reading about my work and they greatly appreciate its worth, and that is why they decided to honor me. So this new species is from central Mexico, near the city of Querétaro, and close to a national park. So tree crickets are fairly widely distributed, globally speaking. They are quite widely distributed. But the Americas and Africa have a very large number of species, which is why there are many undiscovered species still in Mexico. And tree crickets as a group are quite uniform. They look fairly similar, all the different species. There are minor variations. The variations are in song, the most important, because each cricket species has its own unique song. So that's what allows you to recognize a new species, because the male has its own particular kind of song and the female of that species will respond to that song. So if you see a new song type, then you know you're probably looking at a new species. And then they went in and also did the morphology, and they found morphological differences in the wings, which allow you to conclude it's a new species. And decided to name it Rohini. I have to tell you this about tree crickets in particular. In Japan, they're a big cultural icon, tree crickets. Many Japanese keep tree crickets as pets, and the way people may keep cats and dogs. And the song of a tree cricket is something very special to the Japanese. In fact, there is a very lovely saying in Japanese that if moonlight could sing, it would sound like a tree cricket. I think crickets, together with a whole range of insect species, certainly need our protection. They have been among the most successful organisms on Earth. In fact, arthropods have been. But we are staring at huge global insect declines, perhaps driven by a combination of climate change and human interference or human, industrialization and stuff like that. But basically anthropogenic impacts. There's a huge crisis in insect biodiversity as well. Insects offer huge ecosystem services, and so it's absolutely critical for us to protect insects in general. And crickets, fall in that same milieu. Okay, they're not like bees who are direct pollinators, but they are herbivores who form a big prey base for many, many other animals. We know things about birds, we know things about whales, we know things about all these large animals, but we don't really know how large is an insect's home range or territory, or how much do they move. And these are important things to know for a number of reasons, not just to understand their behavior. In my field, insect hearing is really different, very strange, very different from the way vertebrates hear. Insects use tiny structures to perform computations that we do with big brains. And this is of great interest to people doing, nanotechnology, miniature robotics, because there's this huge variety of solutions that evolution has come up with for very small devices, be they sensors or be they actuators, that is, things that fly. And there's huge interest in the engineering community, for example. But if we lose our biodiversity, then you also lose that library of knowledge. But I personally believe that shouldn't, these kinds of transactions, economic transactions or ecosystem services should also not be the only reason. I would like to say that they should be protected again because they've shared this planet with us. They evolved about 150 million years ago. They've been around for 150 million years. And we know from fossils that crickets 100 million years ago could sing. Okay, so they were the first animals on Earth to use sound, terrestrial animals to use sound for communication. And they've been around for 100 million years. We share the Earth with them. And I think we need to have a deep respect for that.
MINDIA, Mind of India.